call the meeting of June 17th, 2013 to order. As always, we have a veteran lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to have our fellow council member, Ray Friend, lead us in the pledge. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Okay, we can move forward to roll call.
Councilmember Valdivia.
Here.
Councilmember Friend.
Here.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Councilmember Scatini.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
City Manager Coulter.
Here.
And City Attorney Atig. Interim Chief of Police Reynoso.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the City Council meeting of June 17th was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on June 14th at 9:10 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to a presentation by...
Could we do the proclamation
Sure.
first, please? Jason Ballou, who is Chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, is here to receive the proclamation.
Where are you at there?
Goodbye.
Thank you. Good. Whereas Parks and Recreation makes lives and communities better now and in the future, and whereas the City of Hollister urges all its residents to recognize that Parks and Recreation enriches the lives of the residents and visitors as well as adding value to the community's homes and neighborhoods. Therefore, it be it resolved, I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, do hereby proclaim that parks make life better. In the month of July 2013 as Parks and Recreation Month, and in doing so urge all citizens to use and enjoy our parks and recreational opportunities. Thank you.
Well, I guess all I would say is that I consider it an honor to be the chairman of the Park and Rec Commission, and although we are a body or two short, the other members, my other commissioners, have a genuine interest in the promotion of the parks, and I hope it shows in our efforts and what we send to you guys. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Are we ready? Okay. There you go.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Officer Toribio, you can step over here, please. I wanted to share with the council recognition that one of our officers received. Let's stand over here. Don't bite. The 15th anniversary of the MAD California State Law Enforcement Community Recognition Dinner was held earlier this month in Sacramento. MAD recognizes law enforcement officials from the community and officers and agencies who have contributed and who have followed through with the mission of MAD to keep our cities safe from drunk driving and to support the victims of this violent crime and to prevent underage drinking. Officer Luis Toribio from the Hollister Police Department was awarded the MAD California Hero Award for his contribution to help MAD achieve its mission to stop drunk driving, support the victims of violent crime, and prevent underage drinking. Officer Toribio made over 25 arrests in 2012, bringing his total amount of DUI arrests since he was hired in 2011, I just checked it today, to 53 arrests since he's been with us. I wanted him to be here and to present this to him, and so that all of you could see this achievement that Officer Toribio has made with such so few years of service in the community, and he's one of our best officers out there getting everything done. We've got a lot of officers. He has a he has a high bar to get to, and he's doing a great job getting there. So here's an award that was awarded from the MAD agency. Here you go.
Thank you very much. I just want to say I'm very proud to work for this department, and I plan on keeping the seek out DUI drivers. I'm committed to keeping this city as safe as possible. Thank you very much.
Also want to add, I believe that as far back as I can remember, one of our officers has always received an award from MAD for their, at least since '99, because I think I won it that year, and 2002. But, I think we missed 1 year. We did miss 1 year, and Captain Westrick, that's the year you were supposed to get it, right? He had we just lost the paperwork. He was supposed to get one. But we take it as a very big responsibility, DUI enforcement, and it's good that we get recognized. We also received the MAD California Hero Award for an agency for the Hollister Police Department in honor of our contribution to the MAD mission to stop drunk driving and support the victims. So I wanted to share that with you as well.
So I want to know who lost the paperwork. Was it you, or?
I wasn't in charge of the paperwork then, so I don't know.
Thank you. Let's move forward to item A, consent resolution, the consent agenda.
If we could, Mr. Mayor, staff would like to pull item A8 for the purpose of continuing it to a future meeting. We have some more work to do on that one. A8, we would ask to pull that one to be continued to, or to be brought back to you at a future date.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Scatini?
Yeah, and I also want to refrain from A10, the fact that I do have a hangar at the airport. I'm going to refrain from voting on A10, so.
I'll move that we approve all items on the agenda except for continue A8 to further date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to A10.
What did we,
I think we already approved
That was included, well, that just notes that Robbie
Oh, okay,
abstained.
Robbie,
I
okay,
refrain
gotcha.
from it. I refrain from voting on it.
Right. You abstained from
I
it.
didn't think you wanted to pull that.
I didn't pull
I understood. I thought he
I
wanted to
didn't pull it. I just refrain from voting on it.
Okay,
On the vice of the city attorney.
no problem. Move on to item B1.
Motion to approve B1.
Second.
All in favor? All right, motion carries. Item B2.
Mr. Mayor and council members, this is, we provided you with a report on the successor agency due diligence review. This was required by an amendment to the Dissolution Act last June. The Department of Finance has accepted the successor agency's due diligence review for the housing. They previously did that last November. Now they've accepted it for the other funds. The bottom line is we won't have any money to disperse to taxing entities. They sent us an approval letter in April 29th. We did appeal their determination because when we approved the other funds due diligence review, we asked that additional funds be withheld for two sources. One of them was for enforceable obligations that were initially rejected with our ROPS 3. And then the other is for some housing funds that were inadvertently transferred before the redevelopment agency was dissolved. That's a little more than almost $805,000. So the bottom line is we'll be placing those reimbursement for those on our recognized obligation payment schedule for the period of July 2014 to December 2014. We'll also be able at that time to claim unexpended bond proceeds from our 2009 bond. That's about $230,000. In order to claim the almost $805,000. We will need to place a loan agreement on a future agenda. We're hoping to bring that to you in July. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Is there, Councilmember Friend?
Was that money in the RDA fund and not transferred when it was put in the general fund?
The housing money?
Yes.
It was transferred in 2011. When we received our 2011 property tax increment, there was a requirement in the law that 20% be transferred to the low moderate income housing fund. So it was transferred there into our low moderate income housing account. But in the eyes of the state, I think there was a lot of confusion last year. Everybody was trying to figure out how to administer this new law. And so it wasn't really clear that we were supposed to transfer that back out and put it into our redevelopment property tax trust fund to pay for our enforceable obligations. So the state presumed that we'd use that money to pay for enforceable obligations.
So it
And
was in
so
the
what
law.
we did is last November, when they accepted our due diligence housing review, that money was deemed to be extra because we hadn't caught it yet, and then it was distributed to taxing entities. So now this is just the way we're going to be able to recover it and get it back.
So it was just put in the wrong spot. It wasn't-
Right.
it wasn't-
Well, I think we had it in the right place. It's just that there wasn't a lot of clarity about how to do things last year. Is there any other questions?
Councilmember Valdivia? Councilmember Scatini?
No, that's okay.
Councilmember Gomez? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move that we approve
Second.
the report.
All in favor?
It was just a report. There was nothing to approve.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
Okay. I withdraw my second.
Move on to item C1, public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
I don't have any for this item.
Thank you. Move forward to item D1.
If we could, I think, do we want to move that in with the other one?
They're sequential, so it's your call.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. No, I mean, you're getting ready to do the presentation on the, yeah. Okay, so if I could, Mr. Mayor, as opposed to doing the update under D, if we could move right straight to F, and Mr. Bloom's report will contribute to that, and that'll just be that item, if we could do that.
Okay, so there's no items on E, so we'll skip over E and straight to F1.
That would be great.
Thank you.
So, Mayor Velasquez and council members,
Thank you.
Rudy and I are going to tag team this evening and cover items that you've heard already and expand upon them. By way of background, what I'll do is go through this part of the presentation that I gave last week to refresh your last meeting, to refresh your memories. Feel free to interrupt if there's any questions at all, and I will attempt to address those. We are also supported today by the two general managers from the San Benito County Water District and Sunny Slope County Water District, so that we can clarify any of your questions as we move ahead. As I mentioned last meeting, there are these 5 bullets are not the staff's 5 bullets, or they were actually a compilation of the items that were contained in the memorandum of understanding originally signed by the City Council, and then they were items that were also brought forward at public meetings when we began public information meetings in scoping the master plan and ultimately the coordinated plan. And I think that council members Scatini and Valdivia were part of that whole process. So they were in those meetings when the people said, basically, they wanted better quality water. They wanted to be able to treat and reuse the wastewater. They wanted reliability. They didn't say locally financed, but they didn't want any resources to leave the county, so I'm assuming that means locally financed. And lastly, they wanted local control to meet all of the regulations. There are regulatory requirements that I mentioned to you, and these have to be addressed. The disinfection byproduct rule is in place right now. It's mandated and controlled by the California Department of Public Health, and the less salt process must be upgraded to meet these new rules by the end of 2013. You don't have a choice. And so the upgrading, you can shut down the plant, but in order to continue to operate the facility, you have to install the upgrades that we're proposing. The wastewater discharge requirements are also mandated. They are required to protect the groundwater. This one is controlled by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the requirements must be met by January of 2015 to avoid fines. And again, these are mandated by state agencies. And the last line is, a do-nothing approach will likely lead to possibly a moratorium with fines, but certainly a more expensive solution.
Harry, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Go back to that slide.
I'll do my best.
Well, if you can, I'll go ahead.
Yes.
Are we going to be able, on that lease-off plant, are we going to be able to have that thing upgraded by the end of 2013?
The answer is no, but we have been in constant contact with the California Department of Public Health, and they have told us that because our due diligence is well underway, we are going to start construction, and I'll cover that later, in August of this year, that there will be no fines.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yes, and you're correct in that assumption.
Okay, thank you.
The direct benefits, as were really shown on the first slide as well, is that we're aiming for high-quality water throughout the community, throughout the Hollister urban area. I'll touch on the reduces the need for water softeners in the next slide, but certainly there's a reduced need for most people to buy bottled water. I buy bottled water now, and I pay $1 a gallon. I pay on special 88 cents. But I will no longer, if I were careful, a family like mine would at least save $10 a month. So these cost savings are very, very generalized. They indicate ranges. As I mentioned to you last time, I'm a family of two, so my total cost savings for all of these items would be closer to $30 than $38. But it's still a significant amount of money per month. The last item is particularly important because we can expect fines, and you get nothing for fines. If we were to take San Juan Bautista as an example, $116,000 a year, over 3 years, that's roughly $38,000 a year. There's 700 connections, and you can do the math. That's $55 a household. We take $55 a household, multiply it times your 5,500 connections. It's $300,000 a year, and there's no benefit. You still have to do the work, but you've been fined. I'm no better this week than last week. This is, the points here are that all of the agencies have cooperatively developed this project. And those of you, I think all but you, Mayor Velasquez, have sat on the governance committee and seen that, that staff didn't do this in a vacuum. It was done cooperatively by all the agencies in a fully transparent process. We presented the site locations for the new plant, we explained the process selection, and we did an analysis that shows that the lowest overall cost was selected. And there are three major parts. It's the cost of the water, cost of the capital, and cost of operation and maintenance. We put all those together, we did a present worth analysis, and we selected the overall cost of the process. The last line is important. We've explained that to you in the past, but local financing means that we save, all of the agencies save money in the long run. These are the long-term benefits. This is just another slide that demonstrates once again that we have to protect our groundwater. And somebody asked the question in one of the previous meetings, well, what does that mean? And the answer is, as we've explained, is we've got 500,000 acre-feet in storage. If we had to build a 500,000 acre-foot reservoir, it would be hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, the issue is one of quality. We have to protect it so it doesn't further degrade. But while agencies like yours and others in the San Joaquin Valley have suffered in the times of drought, the city of Hollister has not. Sunny Slope has not. San Benito County Water District customers, by and large, have been able to rely on groundwater during drought. We can't contaminate it. It's not our choice totally. It's the state of California has directed us. So these are the items. The last line, I think, summarizes it best by saying, supporting the project supports a viable future and economy of San Benito County. And before I turn this over to Rudy Golnick, I'd like to just give you whoops. Rudy, can you save the day and get me onto the key dates? There we go. Key dates. So tonight, hopefully, you will approve the Proposition 218 notice, and Rudy will explain that to you in more depth. If you do approve that, the next action for you will to be approve the water supply and treatment agreement, and I've reported on that, I think, monthly for the last 2 years, where it's the water supply and treatment agreement represents the institutional agreements amongst all of the agencies. And I know that a couple of you have asked, is it still consistent with the memorandum of understanding that was signed in 2004? And the answer is yes. And it's still consistent with the statement of intent that you all accepted about 2010. So we've been true to the intent of the documents that you've agreed upon. There will be a public workshop on project benefits and rates. That will be held at Gov Hol on the 9th of July from the hours of 6 to 8 in the evening. There will be staff from all the agencies there to explain the project, and we will have people there and available who will be able to go through a user's bill and explain what the consequences will be. On August 5th, after the 45 days, you will consider approval of the rates. That will be on August 5th. And then on August 28th, and this addresses Councilmember Scatini's question, when will we start construction? And the answer will be approximately August 28th. That's the date that, the earliest date, the San Benito County Water District at a board meeting can award the contract for constructing the upgrades at Les Salt. So are there any questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Rudy.
Councilmember Gomez?
I don't have any questions.
Councilmember Scatini?
How long will it take to build that?
It's 8 to 10 months, Councilmember Scatini. The issue is a little bit of uncertainty on some of the manufactured items, how long it will take to have. They've not been ordered yet. They're not pre-purchased. And so there's a little bit of a range in there of 2 months, but it's 8 to 10 months is our best analysis.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Friend?
No.
Councilmember Valdivia?
No.
Nope. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion for, oh, he says more.
Both covered.
Mayor Velasquez, members of the council, it pleases me to present to you this item for your consideration. A three-part recommendation for consideration, and that would be that the council approve a resolution approving the Prop 218 informational notice as presented within your packet. Part B would be to authorize staff then to distribute that Proposition 218 notice, and then the third step would be to set a public hearing date in the future to satisfy those requirements of Proposition 218. As council will recall, the past several meetings, there have been a number of presentations by our financial consultant, Raftelis Financial Consultants Incorporated, of Pasadena, California, and as such, they've developed a financial plan with the rates to support the revenue requirements necessary for the city to sustain its water enterprise and also this HUOP program implementation. Attached to your staff report, council, is the informational notice itself, and again, the notice was structured according to the requirements for Proposition 218, and it starts out with regards to the reasons for the proposed water increase, the notice of the public hearing itself. The resolution is short of recommending the August 5th date, primarily due to the process in our requirement to have 45 days of informational notification to the customers, to the public. Our intention is to have the notices sent by the 20th of this month, which would then give us that 45-day requirement, then accommodating an August 5th public hearing date. So the intention, as reflected within this notice that you have, is for that August 5th date itself. It does satisfy the 45-day noticing period itself, as long as we get our publication in the mail by the 20th of this month. Moving along through the notice a little bit further, there are some examples for people to be able to calculate their single-family residential water bill based upon the new rates. The existing rates, the current rates, are reflected within the notice. The proposed rates, the two components being the meter charge as well as the quantity charge itself, are also reflected within the notice itself. If council will note on page 2 a couple of different reference locations for an online rate calculator that the city will be posting upon council's approval to assist people with regard to their inquiries and how much their water rates are going to increase, in some cases possibly decrease. So the notice is reflective with regard to the calculations for those interested parties to determine what their impacts will be. Again, the notice itself does also make reference on the last page to an open house that will be held on July 9th. I think Mr. Blom described the workshop that we'll have again at the Vets building on August 9th from 6 to 8 o'clock. to answer any questions that interested parties will have with regard to the rate program itself and the whole HUAP program implementation program itself. So with that, the staff is recommending, again, that council approve the informational notice as provided, that again, that staff be authorized to mail the notice itself, beginning activities tomorrow. And lastly, with regard to the setting of a public hearing, which is going to satisfy the Prop 218 requirements, and at this particular point, our estimate is to be August 5th of 2013. Now, again, the website for the online calculator is listed on the screen there as interest on the bottom line, and we're hoping that those people that are interested make contact through both the internet as well as contacting the Office of the City Engineer for those questions they may have regarding this program. And that concludes my presentation. If council has any questions.
Can you maybe read that website off so the people that are watching in TV land will know what that website is?
Okay, http://Hollister, California Gov. That is the primary website itself, hollister.ca.gov, and then the site HTML/gov/office/billing-info-ASP. In summary, or for simplistics, simply the city's homepage itself, and then just drill down to the utility billing page. It'll be located in a couple of locations for
Thank you.
access. Okay. Any questions?
Councilmember Gomez? Any questions?
No.
Councilmember Scutini?
No.
Councilmember Friend?
No.
Councilmember Valdivia?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when you sent out the notices, I saw them in English and Spanish, which is good. Are these going to be sent with the water bill to the customers?
No, they'll be sent independently to the property
Independently?
owners. Pardon?
Oh, yeah, independently.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to suggest is that, because usually people tend to get these things, they look and they toss. If you could put something on the envelope or something urgent, please read or something.
If I'm
I
not
think that-
mistaken, it will say ballot, or it does say something specific to the
Something?
Proposition 218
Yeah.
process on the envelopes.
I think that's really important,
Yeah.
because, and of course, it's up to the customer whether they want to read it or
Correct.
not, but I think that we need to make the best effort to make sure that they do read this, and then if they have questions, they can call either council members here or staff at the city.
Okay, one thing that is important to the Proposition 218 process is that the notices be sent to the property owners of the property receiving the service, not necessarily the service account holder. So the notices are sent to the property owners, and so therefore there's a bit of an overlap to the customer as well.
So the people that have renters, it's going to be sent to the owner, not the renter?
To the owner and not the renter.
So it's going to be really, really important that the property owners let the customers know in case they want to raise the rates. I mean, that's one thing, too. It's, how we're going to do that.
Okay.
I can just hear it.
Well, the legislation proves challenging on a number of different areas, that being one of them. And we'll make efforts to answer questions for everyone interested in the program, whether they be a customer or a property owner. We have the resources available to do
Because I'm
that.
pretty sure the increase is going to be passed to the customers.
Pardon?
I'm pretty sure the increase is going to be passed to the,
Oh,
not to the
I'm sure
customers,
it
but
will
to the
be.
renters.
The consumer.
Is that it, Councilmember? Do we have speakers?
Yes, Marty Richmond?
Marty Bishop from Hollister. I have to try and calm myself because every time we go through this, the smoke starts coming out of my ears. I cannot tell you how angry this makes me. We have a process in this country here, in this state, that is supposed to allow voting on this kind of thing. Well, it doesn't really, does it? Why are we wasting the money to vote? We just heard from Mr. Bloom, who I respect as being accurate, that we cannot vote against this. basically, we have no choice. He just said so. You have no choice. So we're voting, well, we have no choice. How could that be called a vote? We're spending money, we're printing ballots, they're going to the property owners, the people who pay the water bill aren't going to get them. We're mailing them, U.S. government mail, we're going to put a stamp on them, somebody's going to put them together, and we're told, basically, we have no choice, but we're going to let you vote on it. That's like saying one person is running and you can vote on it. It's not even a regular vote. It's a protest vote. Half the people who live here are not even going to know what this is about, and they're never going to protest the vote. So why do we call it a vote? Because Prop 218 exists? Prop 218 is a farce when it's used against $116,000 or whatever it is, $355,000 a year fine from the state. This kind of reminds me of what we did last week in the budget hearings. When we sit here, we said, well, it's $6,000 to get a carb test on an emergency generator. Okay, and it's $12,000 to put a carb kit on a street sweeper. Okay, and when you go over to the board of supervisors, they say, oh, and oh, by the way, the Air Quality Board sent you 2 free electric vehicles. Good luck. I simply have no concept of where the state of California thinks we're going to get the money to pay for all this stuff. 15% of the people, as according to the federal government in town here, are below the poverty line. When you adjust that for the cost of living here, it's actually more than a quarter of the people who live in this town. I have to tell you, I don't want to brag, but I'm going to tell you something. I can pay that water bill. I've got a small little grassy area near my house, and my water bill is reasonable. You double it, I'll just pay it. I don't know where you're going to expect these people to pay that water bill. I mean, there was a time when we kept 3 people busy around here just putting delinquency notices on people's doors because they couldn't pay the water or sewer bill. I just want to unload on everybody on this because I don't like being participant in a farce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Marvin Jones?
Marvin Jones, Hollister. I'm not quite as upset as Marty, but I am mildly upset here. Proposition 218 is a method of being able to levy fees, taxes, or whatever with only 50% of a vote, 50% plus 1. And this is extremely ambiguous from what I have seen in your package there and what I've heard here tonight. Is this a stealth election? Are ballots going out? Are we going to get to go to the polls? There's no mechanism discussed on how this is going to be done. We're going to send out notices. Hey, you're going to get a notice. What's the notice going to say? Your rate's going up. You don't get to vote. So don't even bother putting a stamp on it. That way, we only need 1 vote to approve it. Man, this is a mess. This is. I wonder if they'll be recording our phone conversations on this. If this goes to the NSA, it's getting to be some country nationwide, and it's come right down to Hollister, California. Just a stealth election. Boom.
Thank you very much.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, just respond to a few things, most of which don't have much to do with the city and have a lot to do with the state. Number one, it's not a vote. It's a majority protest process, number one. Number two, is it stealth? No, the last time I checked, we're sending something to everybody in the community, which doesn't always happen, so that's getting sent. That being said, what I find interesting is that Prop 218 was put into place by folks like Jarvis Gann, who wanted people to have more of a say, because prior to 218, you folks made a decision. Nobody had to get notice of anything. You simply put something in the paper that said there's a public hearing. So I understand that people are upset and all that, but quite frankly, it was folks that were concerned about taxes that created 218 the way it was, number one. Number two, it was done because it relates to properties, not to occupants of the thing, and that's how they legally did that. So to come in and be upset about 218, fine, fair enough, but it's substantially more say than people ever had prior to 218. Before, there was no process, and so it's the folks that don't like fees and taxes that put 218 in place. It wasn't government running around trying to find an easy way to get rates increased, because certainly this isn't as easy getting rates increased as it used to be. So I find that outrage to be, I'm not going to say it's disingenuous, because I understand misplaced is probably a good word for that. With regard to being affordable, anytime rates go up, it's difficult, but we really did try in our community. You can look at our median income, and that's fine. We have a very segregated community income-wise. We have a lot of folks that are at the lower end, and we have a lot of folks that are really at the higher end, because our median income is pretty high. It's what is it, Bill, $80,000 a year? Well, it's over $80,000 a year. But that's made up of people who have very low incomes and people that have pretty high incomes that don't work here. What we really try to do with this rate is if you have a situation where you're using the water for your indoor needs, for your family needs, for those sorts of things, we have tried to minimize the amount that gets paid. If you can afford to have a nice place that has a lot of yard and all of that, that's where the increase come. And folks like Marty, which I assume you received your notice from Sunny Slope, because that's where you would have received yours, can afford to, and I'm not sure how Sunny Slopes are set up the same way as ours, but the way ours are set up was really to try and make it, to take that into account to a certain extent, is we do have people in the community that can afford to pay some more. Not saying that they should, not saying I want water rates to go up, but we really did try and minimize and come up with a tiered system to where the folks who couldn't afford things do not see the same increase as folks at the higher end of the spectrum that can. And so that's just my response to a couple of those comments, particularly the Prop 218 comment, which was put in place by folks who don't like fees and taxes, and it wasn't put in place by government to try and make fees and rates easier. So.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Thank you,
if I
Rick.
may.
Councilmember Valdivia.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment to tell the community that, just like Harry was saying, this didn't start like a couple of months ago or a year ago. This had been worked on since, 2004? Way back there, when there was nothing available, there was no consortium, there was no MOUs, and that's when it started. It was a very difficult time and a big hump that we had to cross, but we did. And then the work started gradually to get us to where we are today. And it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of expertise working on this issue. I'm not, my thing, my only concern, the only thing, and I express it, is I want to make sure everybody in the community is aware of what's going on, so they can, understand, why this is happening in the long run. Also, to make sure they understand that in the long run, we're going to be saving money, because we're not going to have to buy bottled water, because I buy bottled water also, but a lot of people that, I guess the bottled water industry is going to go broke. I'm just making a comment on that, but they probably won't. But anyway, that's really important that people know that it's been on the works. It's not a mess, and it's not anything, because it has been worked by different folks on the Board of Supervisors, here in the City Council, and also in Sunny Slope, and also in the San Bernardino County Water District. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the council? Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2013-89.
Second.
Okay.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Move forward through item G1, reports from city council committees. Councilmember Gomez.
The only committee I had was AMBAG. I was unable to attend because of our budget hearings.
Councilmember Sagatini.
No committee meetings next week.
I have nothing to report. Councilmember Friend.
Nothing to report. I've been working out of town for the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been able to stay on top of it.
Councilmember Valdivia.
No report.
Thank you very much. Move on to item G2. We get reports from city council. Are there any other reports? Councilmember Gomez?
No, but I do want to take the time and thank our city attorney, Stephanie. I believe today's her last day. Thursday. Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to kick you out early. I want to thank you for your work. You've been here ever since I've been here as a council member. I'm in my 5th year, and I want to thank you for your work here. I always felt comfortable approaching you with any legislative or policy questions in relations to state policy or local policy and whatever things affect the city of Hollister. So though we might not always be on the same page, it still felt comforting knowing that I could approach you and know that I could get an answer whether I liked it or not. But I still appreciated your time, Stephanie, so thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Scatini?
I just want to tell you, Stephanie, I wish you best of luck in your endeavors from here on out.
Councilmember Friend?
No, other than to echo Victor's comments, that Stephanie, it's been a ride, and I've enjoyed it. So, good luck to you.
Councilmember Valdivia?
I just wanted to tell Stephanie I didn't want to say goodbye, but I really wish you luck in your new endeavor, whatever you plan to do. And guess what? I'm going to have nobody to share my leopard shirts with me or anything because we both like animal prints. That's been fun. Thank you for all your work that you've done for the city. It's very appreciated.
And I also like to thank you. I also like to thank you for all the work. I know sometimes we didn't see eye to eye either, but I know you did a good job and you did your best, and thank you for all your hard work over the years. City Manager, do you have any comments?
Just one thing, I believe there's a grant the fire department just received notice that they received. I will let Interim Chief O'Connor go ahead and mention that.
Council, I'll be bringing this back to you at a future date for approval of the grant as well as the approval of the expenditures of the money, but we received a $13,873 grant from the Fireman's Fund to be used for rescue equipment to help the fire department to get rescue equipment, to cut people out of cars, to support cars when they're turned over on their side. So we'll be bringing that back if that's what the money's earmarked for. Okay?
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Take care.
Any other comments? City Manager? City Attorney?
No comments, but thank you for your very kind remarks this evening.
Chief?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I just wanted to share with you that since our recent influx of violence, gang violence, when we had the double homicide on Chaparral, we've been working together with members of the community, in particular Youth Alliance, Hollister School District, SAFE, San Benito County. And we have devised a plan to do a series of community meetings throughout the summer. The first of which is going to be on June 19th on Wednesday. I wanted to share that with everyone. It's going to be a community safety meeting at 6:30, from 6:30 to 7:30 at R. Hardin School in the multi-purpose room. And there'll be representatives there from the school, gang prevention organization, youth services provider, and law enforcement. And we just want to have like a town hall meeting, answer some questions, give out some advice. And we want to do this in a series. We're doing this in R. Hardin this time. And then we're going to do, we're thinking having a series of events at different schools so we can get the whole city of Hollister. Have smaller, more intimate meetings as opposed to a huge one like we did last year where there was over 600 people there. So I just want to announce that the first one is on Wednesday at 6:30 at R. Hardin.
Thank you very much. Wednesday at 6:30, correct? City Clerk?
Thanks. We just have some big events coming up. Next Thursday is the annual Horse Show Parade. Then July 4th is the Kitty Parade. July 20th is the annual Street Festival downtown Hollister. August 3rd and 4th is the annual Relay for Life at San Benito High School. And I, too, would like to wish Stephanie good luck. She is without a doubt the best city attorney I've worked with in 29 years here.
Any other staff? No? Move on to item G3.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. With the resignation of Clint Quilter as the city manager, he will also be vacating his seat on the Oversight Board to the successor agency of the former City of Hollister Redevelopment Agency. The Dissolution Act provides that there be one of the 7 members on the Oversight Board be one of the employees from the former redevelopment agency, representing the largest number of former redevelopment agency employees. He's in the executive bargaining group, which was the largest sector. We're recommending that you appoint Bill Avera to replace him. And that would be a mayoral appointment. Are there any questions?
I have a question. If we do appoint Bill, that would be just till we receive a new city manager that would take Clint's place on that board? Am I correct on that?
That could be revisited, but the law does provide that he would serve at the will, and the mayor could request to change that.
The way I read it was that it had to be a member of the former RDA, so a new
Right.
city manager would not be.
We might need
eligible.
to, that's true.
So Bill is one of the last people available.
Is that true, Billy?
No, the law does say a former employee of the redevelopment agency.
Yeah, you could get rid of me, but then you would probably have to have Mary or Renee or one of the other folks that it has to be a former redevelopment, or an employee. So.
Okay.
So the question, does he want it?
Billy has lots of time.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Are there any other questions, council? Thank you very much. Move on to item G4.
Do we need a motion for item 3?
Oh, we do? I thought, okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Bill Avera for the,
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's move on to G4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was asked by a couple of council members to put this item on for you to just start having a discussion about recruitment to replace the city manager. There's a number of ways that you can do it. You can do recruitments in-house. You can do, you can hire a headhunting firm. That's probably somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. I did a little research this afternoon on about what that costs. If that's the direction you decided to go, prior to doing that, you're probably going to want to have as we talked about at budget meetings, you're going to want to have a discussion amongst yourselves about compensation. So you're probably going to be a period of time before you're prepared to really, get somebody on permanently. So like I said, I had been asked to put that on. With regard to interim city manager, we had initially, I talked when I gave my resignation, and we had a little bit of discussion about having somebody in-house. Go ahead and do that for a period of time. If that's still your desire, what I would do is set up a little interview for you at your next meeting, so that you all can make sure you're on the same page, and that person wanted to do it, and you guys wanted it done. Or if you would like, I have about a month and a half left. If you're going to bring somebody in from the outside to be interim city manager, we probably should really get moving on doing that. So however you guys choose to proceed, those were the kind of, like I say, I was asked to put this on here, and I would let you all discuss.
Are you talking about the intern? Or that's what you're talking about, right?
Talking about both. I think you have a couple of things. I think, number one, you have to decide how you're going to pursue recruiting a permanent city manager. You're not going to do that in the time that I'm left here, so you do need to, then your other discussion is, what are you going to do as an interim while you put together what you need to put together in order to bring somebody on full-time?
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, thank you, Clint, for that, and thank you for putting this on the agenda. I was one that I actually requested for this to be agendized, and the reason being, obviously, because that we understand as a council that the position of city manager is very important and crucial. It's the most important position that that we hire, along with city attorney, as the leadership of, we don't have a strong mayor. That's not the type of government we have here. So the hiring of a city manager is important. So my recommendation would be to seek the in-house interim, and to have that individual work as an interim city manager, and then to recruit for a city manager, a permanent city manager. I don't have a problem going, if folks within the city want to apply, I have no problem, but I think that we need to open it up. The recruitment has to be open up to everybody as much as possible. There are tools obviously out there that may help us. There's recruiting firms that are available out there. We may want to consider that as a council. I don't have a problem with that. It depends on how much money we're going to be spending for that recruitment. But if we want to recruit statewide, it's going to cost us some money. So I'm open to those discussions, but I think what we need to do is first approve the appointment of an interim city manager, and to begin recruitment of a permanent city manager as soon as possible. So those are my desires, and that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Scutini?
I think we should start with an interim city manager and then go from there and start working on it. I understand that Bill Rivera wants to be a part-time city manager for up to 3 months. I believe that's what he said, 3 months. So within 3 months, we should be able to find a city manager, for a full-time city manager. That's my recommendation.
Councilmember Friend?
No, I agree. I think we need to go within the city and get us an interim city manager for a while, but I just, it's a shame we have to spend this money to fulfill a campaign promise. That's just I know that probably bothers people, but that's all this is about. That's terrible. Especially when they cry about, let's save money. Yeah, we're saving a lot of money now. It's going to cost us 3 times it, but whatever the council decides, I'll go along with it.
Councilmember Valdivia?
Also, I agree, we need to look at, start the recruitment now for the city manager. I think it's really important because city manager and attorneys are 2 of the key positions, plus others that we have in and some other departments. But I think the city manager's role is going to be crucial, and because they're the ones that the city manager and the attorney, well, talk about the city manager, works directly with us as city council to provide direction, give us information, et cetera, so we can proceed with whatever policies that are being passed by here with the council, and the manager is required to implement those policies. So I think that we need to start to recruit as soon as we can. And I was going to ask Clint, the league, I know we're members of the league. Do they charge if we start soliciting also in that area? Because they have a really good magazine where you
Yeah,
get
no,
all
and
the positions.
they do it through Western City Magazine, and there is a cost to it, but that is, that's one of the places that every public job gets advertised, so we certainly would, and being a member, you do get, I believe, a little bit, you get a better rate than if you're somebody who's not a
But they
member.
still charge.
Yeah, they do still charge, and so that's one of the places that we would do. Again, I think one of the things you're going to really want to do is really have a discussion before you start advertising. Talk about what it is you're going to do to have it compensation-wise be attractive enough to get somebody to come here, because currently what you have is probably not going to work. And so that'll be part of your process before you start advertising and figuring out how you want to go through that process.
I personally like to look to the League of Cities, or there's some other groups out there that can provide us with a interim city manager. I know Billy's a pretty busy guy as it is with all these new titles here, but I think we should be looking outside for an interim in the meantime as we search for that permanent city manager, so we can bring in some expertise and see how else that person could help us move through some of these ever-changing things in the state laws that we saw with the water issue we just talked about. So I'd like to see us work with the League of Cities or some of the other groups out there that can help us locate an interim city manager for the time being while we search for the permanent city manager. That would be my opinion.
We would really like to get some direction on that one way or another. 'cause
I'll
we need to
make
get started.
I'll make a motion that we seek to hire an interim from within the current city government, and then begin recruitment of a permanent city manager.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, so what I will do is I will set up a interview at your next council meeting for Mr. Avra.
Okay, let's move on to item 5, G5.
No, and just to be clear, with regard to recruitment, the permanent level recruitment, we'll just start gathering information on recruitments and stuff, and that's probably not anything that's going to happen in the super near term. That's what you're going to need an interim for. So I don't really need any direction on that. We'll just start gathering information on that.
Thank you. So move on to item G5, Hollister City Attorney.
This report was put together to focus the discussion about the replacement of the city attorney position, whether it should be in-house or in-house counsel or going to outside counsel. What this report contains is a list of, I prepared a 5-page list of the tasks that I routinely perform for the various departments in the city, and then the department heads prepared a list of the tasks that they work with the city attorney on. So it gives you, I think it gives you a real good flavor of what the daily responsibilities are for the office of the city attorney here in Hollister. And just as a reminder, of course you know this, but when you're comparing other cities, one thing is good to remember is that this city owns the water and the sewer. A lot of other cities do not. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think the last meeting we discussed having this 6-month contract, and we actually approved that. Also, part of that discussion was...
I don't think it was a 6-month contract, Mr.
up to 6 months, I'm sorry, up to 6 months. But we also discussed having whoever that permanent city manager would be make that decision if he wanted to have a full-time city attorney on staff or a contract city attorney. I think it's really that person's, in my opinion, that person's decision. That's two of the most difficult roles, and I think that city manager should have that opportunity to have some say-so in that matter, and I think we should move on with what we've approved at the last meeting. Councilmember Valdivia?
I just want to make a comment in terms of it'll be our responsibility as city council to hire the city attorney. Of course, we recommend it, I'm assuming the city manager will give a recommendation, but I just want to make it clear that this body will make the decision to hire the city attorney, whether we're going to be going with a city attorney or we're going to be going with a contract. So I don't want to get confused here with stuff going on.
That is correct.
That's really important.
Your city code requires the council to hire the city attorney, the municipal code.
And I was
Councilmember
wondering
Friend, go ahead.
if we're at a point where now that we have a contract for up to 6 months, if we should be starting the recruitment process on that too? Or are you going to wait until a new we hire a new city manager before you start that recruitment? It seems like we should start it now, maybe not hire until the new city manager is on board. But if we wait again, we're looking at a year when we get somebody on board. I think we're missing the opportunity. There might be people out there right now that would be interested in talking about it. Maybe once the new city manager makes his decision, then we would be ready to go right away instead of then start recruiting. It just would be, if you're going to work with the public, if you're going to work with the League of Cities, you can also put the notice in there for a city attorney.
So you're saying recruit, but as the city manager comes in, we can kind of make that final decision whether we go with one of those recruits or
Yeah, it's going to
go
be
stay
tough
with the contract.
to put people off for that length of time, but I think it's going to take a while to recruit people and get people interested in the job, period.
I agree. Thank you. Councilmember Scatini?
I agree with Ray, but we got to decide if we're going to go with a contract or a contract attorney. And what I like to see, maybe you can, as a mayor, contact these other cities or put a committee together and see how it works with Paso Robles, Los Gatos, Gilroy, San Juan, and get a feeling how that's working with, and using Stephanie's or information that she provided us on G5 to use that as a gauge, see how they're doing, and get an idea. That's what I like to do. But I agree with Ray, we should start looking for an attorney, regardless if it's contract or otherwise.
Okay. Councilmember Gomez?
I don't know if I could say any more about this issue. I think we talked about it last time, and you know the way I feel. I think we do need a permanent city attorney, so I concur with Councilmember Ray Friend's statement. I think he hit it right on. The recruitment process takes quite a while, and I think you guys are wasting a bunch of taxpayer money. Contracting out for these services is going to cost us nearly $600,000 a year. Okay? And like I said, we already talked about this, but you guys are willing to spend $600,000 a year for a city attorney rather than hiring one now. It boggles my mind on how some people on this council are willing to throw the...
Councilmember Gomez, please, point of order. Please keep it
I
to
don't-
your opinion about the
I don't see how I was
city
out of
attorney.
order.
Yes,
I don't
you
know
are.
how I was out of order. I'm telling you.
Please don't make
that-
comments about other council members.
Well,
Thank you.
I didn't direct it to anybody specifically, Mr. Mayor, so thank you very much, and I appreciate the floor once again. You're wasting $600,000 a year on a city attorney, okay? And all of a sudden, there's these talks about, we want to save money here, we want to contract that department, we want to contract this department. But here we are blowing $600,000 when we could actually just start a recruitment of a city attorney. It boggles my mind. I mean, honestly, it's two-faced actions, if you ask me. But anyway, I believe that we should start the recruitment of a city attorney right away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Gomez. Let's be clear to the public, that is not the cost. That's an opinion from somebody about the cost. That is in no way, shape, or form factual.
It's completely factual. How can you
Councilmember
say that I'm
Gomez,
not being
please, point of
factual?
order. Point of order. Councilmember
I
Gomez.
brought you my numbers.
Okay?
Well,
You do
don't
not
say
have
that
the
I'm
floor.
lying.
No.
You're accusing me of
Councilmember
lying.
Gomez, please, point of order.
You're accusing me of lying, and that's not
Councilmember
right.
Gomez, please.
Sorry, but just
The
don't accuse
point
me of lying.
is, Councilmember Gomez.
You're a liar. If you want
Councilmember
to
Gomez,
talk about
what
lies,
we
let's
want
talk
are
about
Point of order,
facts.
please.
Point
We
of
need
order.
to have point of order.
We want information.
Take a break.
Factual proposals, not anything else. So thank you very much. I did like your idea, recommendation of starting the recruiting process. I think it's a good recommendation. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we start as soon as possible recruiting a city attorney
I'll second that motion.
to minimize, we don't know what the cost is going to be for the temporary. So I think the quicker we do it for what we can save some cost on doing that.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries. Move on to item G6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually a good item. Not a good item, a happy item for everyone. The school board, I believe it was last Thursday night, Wednesday or Thursday night, they voted to rescind their canceling of the contracts for the Mays Gym, the Rancho San Justo Gym, and the Rancho San Justo ball fields. One of the things that I committed that I would do for them was bring an item to you, which would authorize me to send them a letter that authorizes extending a negotiating period on the contracts for 6 months with them. The reason for that is that the way the contracts are written is if you don't give 30 days notice or however number of days notice prior to the end of the fiscal year, the contract rolls over at the same terms as it had the previous year. And they're old agreements, and we really do need to negotiate on them. And they were concerned that we just roll it over at the same terms and don't negotiate. And I really believe that as opposed to, having them cancel the contracts, we probably ought to sit down and negotiate with them, continue to have our programs while we're negotiating with them. So this item is just to authorize me to send them a letter that says we agree to negotiate with them over the next 6 months while the current contracts stay in place and we move forward with all of our programs.
I want to thank you for getting on that early enough to stop something that was definitely the wrong choice from happening. I appreciate you getting involved early to make that happen. Councilmember Valdivia?
No comment on this issue?
Do you have a comment?
No, I think it's a good thing that's happening, that's all.
Councilmember Friend?
No, I have no comment.
Councilmember Scatini?
No.
Councilmember Gomez?
No, just thanks, Clint, for getting on top of it quick. I know it was an urgent item, so we appreciate it.
Is there a motion to
I'd like to
authorize?
make a motion that we authorize the city manager to extend the negotiating period for
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll get that sent out.
Move on to item G7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you'll recall at your meeting on May 20th, Councilmember Gomez asked that the contracting/consolidation of law enforcement be agendized for discussion by the City Council. Just to go back a little bit, previously the council had authorized a contract with the city and the county with municipal resource groups to evaluate law enforcement consolidation and contracting. That was done. The council took action at that time not to move ahead with that. In March 18th, the City Council discussed it again. It had been being discussed at the Intergovernmental Committee. The City Council, by consensus, referred the issue back to the Intergovernmental Committee for further discussion. Then, as I mentioned, at the May 20th meeting, Councilmember Gomez asked that it be re-agendized, so that's here. You've previously been provided with the MRG report. I gave that to you again. I also attached a relevant portion of the minutes of the March 18th meeting. With regard to a staff recommendation, staff hasn't wavered. We still concur with MRG's analysis that while there's opportunities for the city and county and law enforcement to work together and leverage resources, that it's in the city's best interest to maintain its own police department. I think there's a few things since that report came out that you may want to take into consideration that aren't even necessarily law enforcement related, but they have to do with the fact that you've just entered into a fairly substantial agreement with San Benito County to deal with fire services, which was a extremely simple contract for the most part, or should have been, but it took a lot of administrative resources in order to put that in place. It's taking a lot of administrative resources in order to monitor that, to move that forward. It's a contract that I'm sure you all recall where the bulk of the risk lies with the city. It's a good deal for the city, but in order to have it occur, the bulk of the risk does lie with the city. My recommendation is that you see how that contract goes, ensure that works, ensure that you have the resources to administer that, at a management level. Additionally, as you've been discussing tonight, there is a substantial reduction in your administrative capacity, at least for the next 6 to 8 months. And this will be a very complicated contract for you to enter into. And again, these are things that aren't necessarily the law enforcement portion of it, which again, as I mentioned, staff still concurs with MRG's analysis. But I really think there are some other reasons that even if you were inclined to be looking at this, that you may want to wait some period of time in order to have the resources to put together and administer an appropriate contract. So that's kind of my report. As I say, staff hasn't wavered on their recommendation and still does not. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. I agree that it is a very complicated concept. I agree it's going to take quite a while. This is not something that would happen tomorrow, next month, or even 6 months from now. The concept is not one or the other. The concept is let's get the best price possible that the City of Hollister can provide services, one, to the county for law enforcement. The next is to make sure that the Sheriff's Department can provide a proposal to the city to provide law enforcement. And in there, let's see if there's a way that we can work together to save some money and put more officers on the street. One thing I want to make clear for everyone is there is no conversation whatsoever that would include laying off officers. I think everyone's clear here that we don't have enough cops on the street. We need more cops on the street, and we need more resources working together so we can provide the citizens the safety they need. The city is not out of the woodwork shed as far as our budget. We're still in trouble, quite frankly. We have 100 employees that have to take furloughs because we can't afford to pay for those extra days. We need to get those employees back in and working. We're making progress in the city, but we have to keep our minds open to all ideas and see what we can do. I've said this, and I've said it many times. If the conversation started at $500,000, I'm not even interested in a conversation. If there's savings of $1 million or more, I think we owe it to the citizens to talk about it. That doesn't mean a decision, because there's a lot of details involved in these matters. I think the city manager expressed it very well, because it's a very complicated issue. But our jobs here are to make sure we can provide services to the community, to make us proud, and to keep us safe. So none of us know what that looks like yet, but we have to talk about it and not just shut ideas down because we don't like it one way or the other. When we work together, we can accomplish things we can never imagine. We talked a little earlier there about the fire department. We've doubled the size of our fire department now and the number of firefighters, and we're not paying anything more for it. Hopefully we can come up with a concept, an idea that can help us. Let's see what we can do. But most importantly, we have to talk and look at numbers, look at facts. Facts. Nobody here knows what those numbers are, and we won't know. The police department has been extremely busy getting ready for the motorcycle rally. They can't even start on their proposal until, what, mid-July sometime, I would think, after they get the rally done. So there's absolutely no hurry. We don't know, again, 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years before we find out if there's something there. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. And it will never happen if it includes laying off one officer. Matter of fact, it won't happen if we can't add more officers to the street. So that's the concept. And as we move forward, we'll find those answers out. And it's going to take a while. So, Councilmember Valdivia.
When we hired somebody to do a study several years ago, I don't even know what year it was, it wasn't feasible because there was really not going to be that much savings. And again, like what you and Clint were saying, it's a complex situation. I made a statement the last time that I would look and support this if the city would become the lead, to be the lead in the forefront to provide these services and have a county contract with us instead of the other way around. And I still stand on that. One thing I wanted to make also, just a comment on the fire department. The fire department, right now we have the different cities involved, the county and San Juan Bautista, and hopefully it'll work. But if it doesn't work, county can go ahead and contract with CAL FIRE. San Juan will probably go back to do what they do, and then we'll do what we do. But when it comes to the police and the sheriff, it's not going to be that easy. That's what I think, and that's what I am thinking. That it's not going to be that easy because it is going to entail merging. When you merge or get together, somebody loses something. Somebody gains and somebody loses. So I don't think, I think that we discussed this way back a few years ago. We decided not to go with it. It was brought up again, and, it was brought up again with the intention that maybe we can look at it again. And I agree with you, Mayor Velasquez. It can't happen overnight. It's very difficult. If anything is going to happen, it's got to be way down the line, 2, 3 years or whatever, 4 years. But I think it's important that we need to move on because we still have an interim chief. The city manager needs to deal with that, and we just can't continue to just hold and wait. We need to move on because, like we said in the budget meetings, nothing is set in stone. Things can be brought back to council, and we have done that before. So that's my position right now. I think that this is it's a wrong time to really say, yeah, we're going to continue this because we need to continue and move on so we can continue to provide the services.
Thank you. Councilmember Frank.
Well, my opinion has not changed in the last 2 years. The reasons that the people that we hired recommended that it was not a good deal have not changed. In fact, on the county side, they've gotten worse. It's time to put this to bed. There is no savings in this. There is no reason to do this. There's no reason for the city to give up their police force. It's not a win-win situation. It's a lose-lose situation. We lose our police station. We lose our command staff. We're not going to save money. We don't even have a permanent police chief. We got to hire one of those. We got to hire a fire chief. We got to hire a city manager, a city attorney. I don't think we need to be doing this, and it's time to put it to bed. A couple years from now, somebody wants to bring it back up, and we have the money to hire somebody to do this. Those people had input from the sheriff department. They had input from the police department. They had input from other communities, and it was a bad idea. There was not the savings there. You say $1 million. I think the savings was $100,000 over a year. It's been done. It's time to put it to bed. It's time for the city to keep their police force. If anything, we should be worrying about hiring more policemen, not taking on other duties like the sheriff's department.
Thank you. Councilmember Scatini.
All I'm going to say, I was for it 3 years ago, and I made the statement that I thought that was a bogus, they hired these consultants that all they did is stuck it in a computer and cost the city $10,000, cost the county $20,000, $10,000, cost total $20,000, and all they had to do was come back and stick it in a computer and come back with some bogus numbers. That was a terrible, terrible. The consultants did a terrible job. I can tell you that. I'm with you on this. We're going to be laying off officers. We don't have the money to pay officers. We talk about putting more officers on the street. I'd like to know where you're going to get the money to do that.
Council member, please keep it to
Well,
Subject, thank you.
No, I'm keeping it to the subject. He made the comment.
Not to the other council members, thank you.
Well, that's how I feel about it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gomez?
Well, thank you for giving me the floor back. I appreciate it. So a year and a half ago, and I think my fellow council members already stated this, but a year and a half ago, this came to, in December, 18 months ago, this came to a joint meeting between the Board of Supervisors and the City Council. Came back to the City Council as well, and we voted not to move forward. Before I continue, I just want to make one clear statement that our fire department actually has not doubled in size. I don't want anybody else out there thinking that our fire department has actually doubled in size. We've actually added 4 firefighters, so that was an inaccurate statement made. I just want to clarify that. The study was completed a year and a half ago, and just for the public record, the study concluded this. It is a conclusion of the Municipal Resource Group that there would be minimal costs, limited costs, savings, benefits to pursuing a law enforcement services agreement. And please remember that the Municipal Resource Group is an independent. They have nothing to do with the county, nothing to do with the city at all. They worked with both the sheriff and the police chief in both departments to get this information. So there's no bias in this. The law enforcement services agreement for either the city or the county unless more significant personnel reductions are undertaken. In other words, fire some police officers, lower the service level. This would require the city to define a lower service level. It would be willing to support through a smaller sworn staff to elect significantly higher cost savings than outlined above. I think that paragraph there summarizes it pretty well. People keep saying facts. You should bring up facts. We want to see the facts. These are the facts. The facts are before you. I don't know. I think sometimes because we don't like the facts, sometimes we want to say, hey, well, that was a terrible study. We should do it again. Well, you're going to keep asking to get that study done over and over and over until you get the results that you want. That's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do was to bring an independent firm to come in here and do this work and to evaluate the situation, and that's exactly what they did. And I stand to that recommendation. Councilmember Friend, I think, laid it out just perfectly. There's no way that Sheriff's Department, and I feel bad for Darren Thompson, because honestly, he's continually seen a cut in his Sheriff's Department, and that's very unfortunate, but here in the city of Hollister, the voters decided to support Measure E. And the reason they supported that is because 70+% of that funding went to public safety, police officers being some of them. So we understand where the voters wanted their money to go. They didn't give us money so we could go throw our money around to other agencies. And I just don't think that's right. Just to wrap it up, I think it's time to put this item to rest. It's time to stop playing political games with our officers. I have a wife and three daughters. I have a business here, and I really appreciate the work that our officers do in the city of Hollister. I think they do a fine job, and honestly, I think it's just time to start standing behind them and support them instead of continually trying to throw them under the bus. Our officers deserve better. They should know that we stand behind them. Forecasting shows, and we just went over it during the budget, even if we take the 3.5% forecasted growth that was presented to us, even though we didn't accept it, we said we were going to stick with the 2% growth. If we stick with the 3.5% growth and pay down our debt, we will not even be in need of another tax measure. So we would be contracting services out to save money that we're probably not even going to lose. That's really hard for me. That's a really hard pill for me to swallow, knowing that that could potentially happen. There's numbers that have been thrown around already. I never supported this, and even when it went, it was the consensus of the council, and I understand that. I didn't support it going back to the Intergovernmental Committee because I could do the numbers myself. If if you're going to save $2 million from the police department, I mean, all comments, unless you're going to pay them $30,000 a year, which good luck doing if you want a good quality officer, we're going to have to cut at least 13 positions. So to say that we're going to add positions and we can't support this if it amounts to any cuts in officers, if that was the true case scenario, we wouldn't even be talking about this in the intergovernmental committee. So just plain and simple, we need to squash this, like Councilmember Friend said. We need to make a vote tonight to revisit this item in maybe 3 years or so, if that's what the consensus of the council is. If in 3 or 4 years we have a budget issue, we don't have a budget issue right now. We don't have a deficit. We haven't had a deficit in years. So if we want to eventually save money and we see the economy not going in the right direction, then yes, in 3 or 4 years, I could support bringing this back and re-looking at possibilities. Not that I would necessarily support those possibilities, but I have no problem in conducting studies, unbiased studies, that show where we are. But as of right now, I cannot support any of our staff spending time on this item because I think our police officers deserve the best. So thank you, our fellow officers, for everything that you do, and just know that I stand behind you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like you say something? Yes, Councilman Scatini.
All right, so are you going to make any comments what he just said?
Yeah, I would say a few things.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't believe in being reactive. I believe in being proactive. There is a number out there of $2 million already. And I think our department, if they put a proposal together, they could probably do the same thing. I believe that. But if we don't even give you the opportunity to do that, what are we doing here? In a few years, we'll be back to our hat in our hand, begging for money. And we're going to make every excuse in the world about how we tried, but I'm going to tell you right now, we didn't. So I want the public to know, I want everybody to know, that when there's a potential to save $2 million by asking a question, just asking a question, and we don't do it, shame on us. It's really clear that we're not going to make up this deficit, because we do have a deficit with a Band-Aid on it called Measure E. And once that Band-Aid falls off, we're going to have a problem. And the last thing I want to see is the cops getting laid off. Now, I know some of you might not believe that, but we can't afford to have that. What I like to see is our officers putting together a better proposal than what the Sheriff's Department's doing and showing them what we can do. At least give it a shot. Because again, I don't want to be here in 3 years talking about if we would have, we could have, darn, we didn't know this was going to go on. That's not what I want. All I want are conversations. And if we don't have those conversations, we're not doing our job. We just aren't. Because it's not fair to keep asking families to pay an extra $400 a year for us being afraid to make some hard decisions. I don't see it as a hard decision. I see it as a chance to show what you guys can do. At least talk about it. That's all this is talking about it. And if we shut this down now, we deserve what's coming to us. Councilmember Scatini?
I just want to make one thing clear. I have a lot of respect for the police officers in Hollister. I know most of you. I know what kind of job you do. And it's no stranger to me about police work. That's my whole life in police work. And for him to say that we don't show no respect to you guys, I want to make that very clear now. I do. And most of you that know me know that I do respect you guys. So I want to make that clear. That's all I
Thank you.
got to say.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm going to make a hard decision and make a recommendation that we shut this down for 3 years, and that's my motion.
Yes.
This is not, it's not open to the public, it's just a report.
It's absolutely open. Any item on the agenda is open to the public for comment.
Let them speak.
All right. I'll remove my motion.
Marty Richmond?
Well, it's Marty Richmond from Hollister. It's tough enough to be involved in the 218 process where your votes don't count. Now, my good friend Ray, my fellow veteran, doesn't want me to come up here and say anything about this project. Look, things are bad when I'm the most reasonable guy in the room, okay? So things are really bad. There's so much to cover here, I can't do it in 3 minutes, but I'll try really fast. First of all, I'm a little insulted by anybody who would think that if I wanted to save some money, I would do it at the expense of public safety. I also have a wife here, and I also live here. And, you know, I respect the police department, but I'm not going to pay some policeman $1 million. And neither is anybody else to go on patrol. So come on, let's get serious here. Everybody's got something at stake here. The police have a lot of money at stake because, you know, it's a matter of how much overtime you make. Come on, let's be honest. How much retirement funds you get, whether or not you're going to get promoted or not. The public's got something at stake because they got public safety at stake. The county's got something at stake because they want to save money. Oh, we're going to use the police department as a battering ram for political progress? Are you kidding me? What the hell's the matter with you people? Grow up. That's all I got to say. Now, if anybody was serious about this report that came in, I'm going to ask you a question. How come you haven't done anything on the 5 recommendations that were there to save money? None of you. And I'm taking you all on. Because none of you were serious about that report. You pulled out of it, all of you, whatever you liked. And then you ignored when they said, oh, here's 5 things you could do to save a lot of money. We didn't do any of them. So, you know, the truth of the matter is, as long as the taxpayers keep forking up, and I supported Measure E, I want to remind you of that in case somebody's going to mention my taxability. As long as we keep forking up, nobody minds up forking our money over. I want you to start acting like a responsible city council and start figuring out a way to generate some revenue, or we're not going to be here. I don't care whether you consolidate or not consolidate. We haven't done a thing about generating any revenue around here. Walgreens was a found plum that fell in our laps, so we've taken their money and walked away, but nothing else is happening that I can see.
What about the rally?
The rally?
Hang on.
I will answer
you,
that.
sir.
I love the rally. I'm the guy who had it on my platform, do the rally. You think you're going to live a year off what you can make in a rally? Are you kidding me? I guess nobody here has ever looked at the budget. How about the budget? Look at the budget. Look what it costs to put a policeman on the road. $200,000 a year for a patrolman. Let's get serious.
I want to make a comment. I want to answer. I want to take him on. I got it.
Ask him.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment in regards to what he said directly?
I'd rather you don't let the public.
There needs to be
Well, I know, I
clarification
want
on
the
that
public-
item because that was inaccurate.
Well,
So we need to clarify that.
After the public
because
speaks, Councilmember
If-
Gomez, after the public speaks, Chief, you can make a
Yeah,
comment.
and Mr. Mayor, if I could just really quick, I just want to make sure that Marty understands that the items that he brought up were addressed, and like you said, he'll clarify those afterwards.
Yeah, I want the public to have their opportunity to speak. You're all entitled to that. Chief, afterwards, you're welcome to make a comment. Thank you.
Chris Wells?
I want to make some comments too. Yes.
Well, good evening. Chris Wells, Hollister, California. Once again, I'm here as both the Vice President of the Hollister Police Officers Association and as a resident and a father. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and address this issue once again. It's a same day or same issue, different day. As of January 2012, there was a report put out that you all have that we keep referencing to. It stated there would be no significant money savings without a serious reduction in police staff. That was from an independent company. no significant money savings without a serious reduction in police staff. At the police department, since that time, we have moved forward with improving our equipment through the use of grant, not city money. We have hired a total of 3 officers since the passage of Measure E, while the Sheriff's Department unfortunately has been forced to lay people off. If we contract, we'll be giving up that equipment and those people to the county. It won't belong to the city anymore. It'll be county equipment and county employees. The people voted yes on Measure E to save our city services, not give our taxes away to the county. Some county residents have come up with the argument that since they spend their money in the city, they should share on the services provided by Measure E. Well, I ask, do these same people, when they shop at Costco or the outlets, do they expect Gilroy Police Department to come and patrol their streets? No. It's just not a good argument. The sheriff has said that by taking over the PD, he can save money on equipment. Our equipment, like I said before, the new cars, computers, weapons, and etc., have all been bought through the use of grant money, not city money. That's money we have directly saved the city. By contracting, you are taking a gamble with our tax money and police services. If contracted, the city council will lose all control and oversight of its police department. I think everyone can agree that the safety of our families, your constituents, the people in the audience here, is not something we can take a chance with. Mayor, you said that you want to be proud and see what your police department can do. If you want to see a top-notch police department, go down to the police department and walk through the halls. Look out here at your police officers, your detectives, your admin staff. We are a top-notch law enforcement department. I ask that you vote no to gambling with our safety, and yes to ending these consolidation talks and keeping our tax money within the city for the purpose it was intended for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gail Cole.
Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Gail Cole. I live in Hollister. I am the Secretary of the Hollister Police Officers Association. I have been a multi-services officer for the Hollister Police Department for the last 12 years. Prior to being hired as the very necessary second MSO in 2001, I was a volunteer with the Hollister Police Department for about 6 months. My primary duty as an MSO is handling the property and evidence along with many other responsibilities. Yes, I am the person that several speakers have said that the county only needs one person to do that job for the police department and the sheriff's office combined. I can assure you that is not the case. However, I am not here to talk about myself tonight. If you actually want to learn about what my job as an MSO entails, I would be more than happy to share that information with you. Tonight, I want to talk about the employees of the Hollister Police Department. Many of our employees are married and have families, some younger, some older. Some are single, trying to raise a family on their own. Some of our employees are caring for their aging loved ones. The ones that can afford to live in Hollister want their community to be a safe and sane place for their families and themselves, the same as you and I do. Others live out of town, some by choice, some out of financial necessity, and commute up to 2 hours one way to get to work here at HPD. In my many years of employment, I have never seen a more honest, giving, hardworking group of people committed to serving the public to the very best of their abilities. These people, and they are people, just like you, work day in and day out with adverse conditions such as staffing shortages, overtime requirements that are staggering, and until recently, worked with old and worn-out vehicles and equipment, often prone to failure. The criminal element that all of us, sworn or unsworn, at HPD deal with are not the kind of people that most of you would want to be around. The people that we treat with respect in the course of our jobs are the same people that others fear for physical safety, protection for family, and so on. In my 12 years here, I have seen officers with serious bites, scratches, broken bones, sprains, terrible bruises, abrasions, and any other kind of injury you can imagine. Our lives and the lives of our families have been threatened at one time or another. But these people come to work and do their jobs day after day, knowing the kind of people they will likely be facing when they put on their uniform. They are loyal to the city of Hollister, the citizens of Hollister, and the oath that they took when they came to work for HPD. They deserve to be treated with some respect and gratitude for a job well done, not like some piece of furniture that can be passed from agency to agency or thrown out like garbage. They are the ones that stand to lose the most if the takeover of HPD by the Sheriff's Office is allowed to happen. I urge you to vote no on continuing down the path to consolidation. Thank you for your time.
Carolyn Grover.
Mayor, City Council members, and citizens of Hollister, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here first and foremost as a resident of the City of Hollister. I moved here in 1999 with my family and have enjoyed the friendly small-town atmosphere that is one of the many facets of Hollister's charm. I have always felt safe here knowing that if I had an emergency that required a response from law enforcement, I would receive it quickly because the officers responding were from my local city police department. When the economy slumped and the need arose for a tax to subsidize emergency services, I was one of the many citizens who voted yes because of the importance of maintaining law enforcement at the city level. When that tax was in need of renewal, I again voted to keep our emergency services staffed. Our city needs a law enforcement agency whose primary focus is the City of Hollister, its citizens, and its businesses. Secondly, I address you as a non-sworn member of the Hollister Police Department and a board member of the Police Officers Association. It has been my honor to serve this community since 2008, and I have worked hard to maintain the standard of excellence and professionalism that I see in the others I work with at the police department. These men and women put their lives on the line every day, knowing that what they do quite often goes unappreciated and overlooked. It is one thing when in the throes of an emergency, a citizen may not see or acknowledge the effort of the officers on the scene. I can understand that. But it is quite another thing when the very city officials who proudly call Hollister their home, who live here, who do business here, and who have come to expect the level of safety the police department has consistently provided, would view the police department as nothing more than a line item on a budget that can be cut. The police department has endured numerous reductions over the years in staffing and in funding, and yet has continued to serve this city well. It is time for you to show the same level of support for your police department. Vote tonight to end the discussions on law enforcement consolidations with the county. Let us go back to work tomorrow knowing that you have our backs this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bo Leland.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Bo Leland, and I've been a police officer with the City of Hollister for a little over 5 years. This is the third department that I've worked in 2 separate counties. I worked for 2 municipal departments before this and 1 school district police department. Mr. Mayor, you spoke about efficiency to an extent. You spoke about numbers. I just want to give you a few numbers. This year, officers and IT staff were able to put in place a $250,000 computer system that we did for less than $30,000. That was within the IT budget that you guys allocated for last year. Over the last 4 years, we've completely replaced our fleet of patrol vehicles, and we did that through grant money. Our administration is pioneering the use of technology, traditional and social media, and getting the word out about crime trends, specific incidents, becoming more transparent, and becoming an agency that's responsive to the needs of the community, directly communicating with the community. We've completely replaced all of our firearms and our patrol rifles through selling our guns back and through grant money. We have almost all of us have gone to advanced field sobriety test training so that we can better arrest people for DUI. We have an officer who's setting up a nonprofit organization to collect money so that we can get a new canine unit. We have an officer investigating gang crimes and doing nothing but that, and that's all on grant money. We have deployed an automated license plate reader that to date has recovered 10 stolen cars in 2 separate jurisdictions, and that was achieved through grant money. We have countless DUI enforcement grants, traffic enforcement grants, DUI checkpoints, training and equipment, all of which was provided through grant money. These are the efficiencies that you see in our department. These grants have been written by officers, sergeants, captains, and chiefs. From the bottom to the top, we're all striving to be the best we can with the resources we're provided, as small as they are, and we're encouraged to do so by our administration. We as a department have constantly been asked to do more with less, and you should be immensely proud of what we have done. Policing is not simply a matter of a bottom line. It's not simply a line item on your budget or a unit cost per hour of patrol. The effectiveness of a police department is measured not just in the number of officers it employs, but in their capability, dedication, professionalism, and capacity. This is the third time in as many years that I've spent months coming to work, worried if I'm going to have a job the next month or the next year. I'm sick of it, frankly. Okay? We are deeply invested in this community. We've built an organization that we're immensely proud of. It's frustrating to see that some people simply wish to ship us off to another agency. From the unbiased report that you have in your hands, it's less than a $300,000 difference. That's an unbiased report, and I would urge you guys to turn to that when seeking the facts and the answers that you guys are looking for. I urge you guys to end the discussion tonight and to vote to keep the Hollister Police Department intact for a number of years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray Solano?
My name is Ray Solano. I'm a representative of the Hollister Police Officers Association. I've been living here for about 10 years. I worked at another department, 4 of them to be in fact. 10 years ago, I came here to start a family. I had my firstborn. I was excited. I was very happy. Bought a new home, started sweeping my driveway. Found a bundle of methamphetamines in my driveway, which pissed me off. Contacted all my neighbors. They were telling me all the things that were happening. Told them I was a cop at a different agency and there's nothing that I can do. Shortly after that, I seek the police department. My buddy over here, Officer Anderson, he came here from my old department. He recruited me to this department. Talked to the chief, and then was Chief Miller. He convinced me about this department. I wanted to do something for my department. I wanted to place my stakes here. Not in another county, not in another city, not in our county. I want to patrol my city streets to protect my kids, your kids, my neighbors, my mother, my father, and your fathers and mothers. So doing this transition is not what we want to do. We want to stay within the city. Something that I read in the newspaper the other day about the article in the Freelance really disturbed me. In this article, it quoted Mayor Velasquez as saying, "The pending considerations of the law enforcement contract is the reason Hollister hasn't moved ahead in hiring a permanent police chief." Quite frankly, I don't believe that's true. During the original plan for the austerity plan, the administration for the police department decided that a rotating interim chief would be the best bet for the department. It eliminated the salary of one police chief for the first year. This was $210,000, and we're currently still using this plan, saving the city money. A second quote from the article states that Thompson estimated that he could provide 20 officers along with vehicles and equipment, could cost the range of $3 to $3.5 million. That would be closer to about $2 million in annual savings for the city, nowhere near the dollar amounts represented by the consultants. I have a question to ask about that. Has anybody seen this report? Has anybody other than the newspaper? I don't think so. Again, the Sheriff's Office currently deploys 1 deputy and 1 deputy sergeant on the streets, compared to our 4 provided by the police department. How can the sheriff propose of 20 officers to the city and provide that equipment? As reiterated from other earlier statements, secondly, the Hollister Police Department, through funding from grants, have already upgraded equipment, such as cars, computers, firearms, and are currently in the process of outfitting the officers with new duty gear. All of the no cost to the city. The department is saving the city money. It's easy. The last time we contracted with the county was for communications. In a period of 10 years, the county raised our rates over 200%. The last year we contracted with county communications, the contract was $1.2 million that we paid out to the county. As a result, we looked elsewhere. We contracted with SER 911. We are now saving hundreds and thousands of dollars each year. This time, now is the time that you, the city, step forward and protect us. We live here. We are your neighbors. Our children play together. We love this. We want to work here, not for county.
Thank you, Rick.
David Anderson?
Honorable members of the Hollister City Council. My name is Dave Anderson, and as the president of the Hollister Police Officers Association, I represent the police officers, sergeants, and support staff of the Hollister Police Department. I've been in law enforcement for about 17 years and spent half that time working for the city of Hollister. I've been proud to call Hollister my home for over the last decade. I'm here tonight to encourage you to put an end, once again, to these distracting discussions regarding disbanding the Hollister Police Department and a takeover by the San Benito County Sheriff. This was the decision that the City Council came to last year, and the only thing that's changed since the decision since then is that the Sheriff's Office is now even less capable of taking over police services. This issue was already put to rest and has only served as a distraction to the Police Department and the Sheriff's Office in carrying out their respective missions. Mayor Velasquez was quoted in the Hollister Freelance saying that he would like to see a $1 million cut from the Police Department budget, and that he would be willing to consider giving away the Police Department for a savings of $500,000. In the recent contract between the city and county fire services, there appears to be no savings to the city of Hollister, and the city is taking the risk for any cost overruns that may surface. The fire merger might still make sense for their operations, but it is a completely different situation from law enforcement. In that case, the county is only changing contractors for fire coverage. If it doesn't work out, the county can easily renew their contract with CAL FIRE. Hollister does not currently contract out police services. The elimination of the police department is an entirely different situation. If things don't work out with the county providing law enforcement for the city, the citizens of Hollister are left with no backup plan. The cost of recreating a police department from the ground up would create a larger deficit than the city's budget would be able to handle. Finally, Los Angeles County, with the largest sheriff's department in the world, can offer cities economies of scale extra services such as a SWAT team, air support, drug interdiction, auto theft unit, hostage negotiators, and a bomb squad, just to name a few. The San Benito County Sheriff's Office offers none of those existing services. And while it may make sense for cities in LA County to contract with their sheriff, it makes no sense for the Hollister to seek a law enforcement contract from a county agency that has suffered more cuts and is in worse shape than the existing police department. Please end this distraction tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob Bernowski.
City Council members, Mr. Mayor, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am here, I'm in awe of the Hollister Police Department and some of the innovation that they've used to communicate with the public. I became aware mostly of what the Hollister Police Department does, in addition to calling them to my various businesses when needed, through the use of social media. There's a web page out there, or a Facebook page, called Hollister Neighborhood Watch. And Mr. Westrick is seems to be the primary interface for the public and does an incredible job of showing how government can interact with the public and get them the information they need just to really, get the answers that the public doesn't usually have an opportunity to ask. I'm here tonight, though, because of that very web page where one of the officers posted on there, hey, please come out and support the Hollister Police Department due to the current topic here. As I said, I think they do a wonderful, wonderful job. But you folks are elected officials, and the people of Hollister didn't elect a consultant to make decisions. I think anytime anybody of any credibility whatsoever in the area of law enforcement comes forth and says, I might have an opportunity to show how the city can save a lot of money, you have to take a look at that. You just don't foreclose on it. I've read the report, and there are facts stated in the report. It comes up to, the fact is, the report has a conclusion, but I can't read what the underlying facts were. So I look forward to seeing what Sheriff Thompson has to say, and I wouldn't foreclose on it. If you don't like what he has to say, you can shut it down there. But I do mean sincerely, I am impressed with especially how Westrick is interfacing with the public. And I am impressed with how you folks are interfacing with the public and allowing us to have this democratic discussion. But really, any time you can save money, that can mean, and probably would mean, more resources for those members of the Hollister Police Department no matter what uniform they're wearing. So please, keep the discussion going. It's the right thing to do as elected officials. And Hollister Police Department, keep doing what you're doing because you are doing an awesome job. And anything I say, I don't want to take that away from you. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thanks.
Bev Miller.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I don't like to speak, but I feel really strongly that it's important for our leaders now to act the way you should act. I really appreciate hearing everything that the police department has done. I think a lot of businesses are doing a lot of creativity in keeping healthy in this time of difficulty with our economy. So I really appreciate that. I find it kind of insulting, though, that because I also think that the city government should also be responsible and to spend our money as well as possible and to think about 20 years from now. Don't just think about today. That certainly doesn't mean that I don't support the police department. I have a lot of people that I know that I like very much that are police officers, and I respect greatly. So I would like to encourage you, Mr. Mayor, and all the council members to continue to engage in strong dialogue about considering a more effective consolidation and contracting of our local law enforcement. In our present financial condition, we must continue to think outside the box and consider all of the expenditures connected with law enforcement. Please do not be swayed by emotion, by inaccuracies, or exaggerated rhetoric. I know it's easy to get emotional because, you know, every person is a person. But please do not be swayed away from the facts and away from doing the right thing because of emotion. Please prioritize cost effectiveness. If you guys don't do your job and spend the taxpayers' money the way it should be spent, you're not doing your job. Please, bottom line, consider in 20 years what you would have wanted to accomplish at this time of great needed action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Love.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I didn't get to vote on Measure E. I live in a county. I spend my money in the city. And sure, every once in a while I do get to go to Costco and try to save some money, but you know, that's beside the point. But the thing is Captain Westrick made a point to me the last time this was in discussion in May that I was a little worried about, you know, what about us out in the county, you know, whenever the Sheriff's Department's overwhelmed. Well, what'd you call that, Dave? Community exchange or something like that, where you guys will come in and fill in when they're overwhelmed?
Mutual aid.
There you go. Mutual aid. Yeah, I don't mind my little bit of money going to the city, now that I've heard that. But you know what? The Sheriff's Department's in hard need. But, you know, the thing is that instead of trying to fight against each other, try and find a way to communicate together. And I, you know, the captain here and the chief here is working hard to keep our city safe. And I consider this my city. You know, and the thing is that every one of these officers are trained in tactical situations. Well, I was trained for 25 years in tactical situations, not fighting in cities. I did it in the jungle in Vietnam. Am I scared out on the streets? You damn rights I'm scared, because it's a different scenario than what I was trained to fight in. You know, I feel sorry for these guys every time they have to go out on a family dispute because they don't know who their enemies are. It could be the wife, it could be the husband, it could be the kid. But you know what? These guys has got a terrible job that they got to do, but I tell you what, they should be appreciated for what they do. Am I scared? You damn right said, I'm going to stay scared until we can get the gang force people to get together, and for the citizens of the city out here to start talking to the cops when they see something wrong instead of cowering in their houses and say, oh, I didn't see nothing. You know, that's where it's at. We got to get community involvement in helping these guys get their job done.
Carol Lenore?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council persons. I just wanted to come up tonight and give my support to the council persons Gomez, Friend, and Valdivia. Here's what I would like to see. We have a lot of irons in the fire right now. So I would like to see the success or the failure, hope not, of the fire department contract with the county. I'd like to see the income that the rally generates, because it's always been touted as a revenue-generating event. I would like to see more of the Measure E income come in before we make a decision on merging the police. And most importantly, I agree with, I know that's not
Sorry,
me.
it was the last one.
I do concur with City Manager Mr. Quilter that we should wait to see some of these other things, the fruition, and I would like to see a permanent city attorney and city manager to do that administrative work prior to merging with the county. I don't know, it just seems kind of suspect that the county would come up with a merger now, because they're broke. So I'd like to see a healthier county, and then you talk about a merger. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Richard Bianchi.
I'd like to thank the council for this opportunity, and I wanted to start by saying I'm in farming, and I thought I had a lot of work to do, but you got a bunch of big shoes to fill, so you've got a lot on your plate here over the next few months. But anyway, my name is Richard Bianchi from the San Bernardino County Farm Bureau, and to take a word from Mr. Mayor, he asked the question, and at school we were always taught the only dumb question is the question that's not asked. And what I would ask is continue asking the questions. Why quit asking the questions now? You know, by no means do you need to do this now. By no means you're probably not going to be able to do this in 6-8 months. What, by the time you fill these 2 positions, you've got a lot more on your plate than that. But without continuing to ask questions and continue to explore, no good can come by being complacent. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Last speaker card is from Jeff Miller.
Evening, Mayor and members of council. You know me, I am the retired police chief of Hollister. Just wanted to respond to a couple of things I've heard tonight, and I'm going to go last with what Mr. Bianchi said. The question has been asked, and the question has been answered. You have the report in front of you. The savings was less than the $500,000. It was about $300,000, but there's a lot of other things that report noted. And I think what's very clear is you can't take one understaffed department, the police department, add another understaffed department, the sheriff's department, and think that magically you're going to have a fully staffed law enforcement agency. Those numbers don't work out, and the consultants told us so. The consultants pointed out that there are different types of policing engaged in this county. There is rural policing, and there is the goes on. And each agency is equipped to do those types of policing. As one speaker mentioned, you have a sheriff's department that is smaller in operation than the city police department. And it makes no sense to hand a larger operation over to a smaller operation. LA County, Santa Clara County, Alameda County, San Mateo County, they're all much larger sheriff's offices than the sheriff's office we have here. And they're able to handle that, and there is a cost savings and a cost efficiency in that. But the reality here is that the police department handles upwards of 3 times or more the amount of crime, amount of reports, amount of incidents that the sheriff's department has. And the sheriff's department is not equipped to handle that. One of the concerns is that as a county resident, and let me tell you that I am a county resident. I don't have a dog in this fight because I don't live in the city, and I don't work for the police department anymore, so it's not my job that's affected. But I will tell you that as a county resident, I supported Measure E, and I'm glad to spend that extra half-cent, or that extra 1 cent sales tax, because it goes to keep Hollister safe. My family shops in Hollister. I drive on Hollister streets. I go to church in Hollister. And I'm glad to see that the money is spent to keep this city safe. For those of us that live in the county who want to have safe streets and better patrol in the sheriff, we need to turn to the Board of Supervisors and get them to restore the sheriff's budget and get them to add back. We don't need to take from the city. The reality on it is, by combining those departments, you drain resources off from both sides, and it doesn't make sense. You spent money on the report. The report is in. The question has been asked and answered. Don't spend more time. Don't spend more staff. Don't take distraction away from the departments to do something that's already been done. It's redundant. It costs time. It costs money, when instead the resources should be spent on impacting the crime problem, the traffic problem, the safety problem in this community. So my recommendation, with many, many of the other people here, are to please end this now. Put aside this discussion on consolidation. You have the report. The question has been asked and answered. Now follow with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, we promise you your time.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It was only in regards to a correction of the first speaker. There were some 10 items also included in the study, and the statement was made that we had done nothing in regards to that. Just to refresh your memory, one of the items was addressing service areas, urban versus rural. And there was an idea that the police department would take on all the county pockets within the city of Hollister, so that a deputy doesn't have to respond from San Juan Bautista for instance, a residence on El Toro, which has a lot of county addresses. I think that's a good idea we should explore. A provision was to combine our detective bureau. That was another item that was on there. And we have 2 detectives and a detective sergeant, and now a gang officer, thanks to the CalGrip grant. And I believe the sheriff's office had 2 detectives and a detective sergeant. Now they just have 1. To combine, to have their detectives come over to our department, and they would work together, and regardless of whether it was a city crime or a county crime, work together as a team. I think that there may be some efficiencies, not much cost savings, but efficiencies. And then that detective sergeant, who essentially would be supervising 1 person at the sheriff's office, would be put on patrol, thus more services for the county. Technological, there was another provision to combine our records system, eliminate redundancies, our evidence room, to put our evidence together in one room, and the possibility of having our MSO in charge of that as well. Law enforcement vehicle maintenance. There's a total of 10 items. 1 is an IT thing. 1 was to collaborate with the sharing the same police department, but now the sheriff's office has their own building, real nice building. I've been in it. That's kind of redundant to even look at that. Joint training of our facilities. We've actually started the purchasing of I believe, $13,000 worth of training. We got a grant to buy equipment that the sheriff's office and the PD will use together to jointly train to be more efficient. The use of joint press liaison personnel wouldn't really save much money. There's the last item was for the city and the county to jointly put out ordinances, city and county, so that they're basically the same. It just makes it easier. All of these items, we've met with the sheriff's department on this. We had several meetings with Captain Westrick, interim chief at the time as well, and we met with them. We encouraged most of these. Most of these were our ideas, and nothing ever came back. So we did our part. We're still open to any of those ideas. I think they're more of efficiencies, not so much cost savings, but we're open to all of these things. But the statement was made that nothing has been done. If nothing's been done, it's not because of us. And that was said at the other meeting, and it was said today, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you would include in your proposal, those items?
Those items are already in the proposal, and I think we should. I think there are things that we could work on right now.
But
there's no need to.
Going to those items and other ideas you have, that you could provide?
I believe
Sheriff's
the
Department?
proposal you requested was a proposal for the police department to take over patrol services for the county, and they're going to counter with the same thing. There's nothing more that's been asked of us besides that.
I think, so it's clear again, the idea here is to have these conversations, proposals back and forth. You just mentioned a lot of good ideas, but if we don't keep communicating, all those shut down again. And that's the point of it. I think you have some good ideas. I know you have
that's
more.
my point, Your Honor. That's my point. We've been communicating. We haven't received anything back from the county. We are open to the majority of these things, and the communication's not there. We don't have to do a proposal for this. This is in the study that was provided in 2011. It's in your documents right now. And we're open to discuss this with them. We had, I believe, 4 meetings, and then they just stopped, right? And so it's not on our part, and we're open to this. There's no need to study this anymore. It's already there. We can sit together. We can iron these things out, see if there will be some efficiencies there, mutually benefit both agencies. We're open to that, but it's not on our side. We don't need to study this anymore. We need to sit together and talk for that.
And I agree with you, and that's, again, that is the point. As long as we keep talking, we can hammer things out. Whether it becomes a merger this way or that way, it's keeping the communication up. Because if they're not responding to you, we need to make sure the public knows about it.
Those 10 items have nothing to do with the merger.
Well, this is just keeping channels open is my point. So that's what I'm attempting to do. If we can see savings, that's great.
Yeah, I would only add one more thing, Your Honor. You mentioned some savings, and I think it was apparent with Measure E not passing, it was going to mean layoffs. Over the several years we've been looking at doing more with less, we've gotten to the point where we're as efficient as possible. Any savings is going to be in personnel. And I know you just stated a few minutes ago that you would not be in favor of anything if it included layoffs. Any savings is a person, is a position eliminated. There, you can't save enough paper clips to get to $2 million. I don't know where that number figure came from, but any cuts, whether it's $500,000 or $300,000, that's personnel, and those are layoffs. Whether it's in the city or in the county, that's the only way you can get any savings, and that's what the study said.
Again, it's important so we all understand. If there's any discussion of layoffs, there will be no discussions. The idea was to see what we can provide, what the county can provide. So be it.
I have a
Go
question.
ahead, Councilmember Gomez.
I guess I want the folks to understand that, obviously we know where this is going, and we don't want anybody from the public, whether you live in the county or whether you live in the city, to think that talks are going to stop. So I think it would be satisfactory enough to, because all you want is discussions, right? You just want talks to continue. That's wonderful. So what we could do is, on that motion that was made by Councilmember Friend to table this item for 3 or 4 years, whatever that motion was, would be also we could ask our police department to continue to research those 10 items that are on that list and do whatever you can to communicate with the Sheriff's Department and look into those issues. I think that'll satisfy the mayor's request completely, because he's asking for talks to continue, and talks will continue with these 10 items. And we have a supervisor here, Supervisor De La Cruz, and I'm sure Supervisor De La Cruz would support the continual talks between the two departments. Sorry if I'm speaking out of hand there, Supervisor De La Cruz, but I know Supervisor De La Cruz is supportive of the intergovernmental type of work that we do together. So, if Councilmember Friend would amend his motion to add, to possibly continue working on those 10 items as referred by the independent study, I could support that. I could support you guys continuing making those efforts. If you hit a brick wall, you did your part, and we just want to make sure you're doing your part. So I'm supportive of those 10 items being evaluated for staff time. I don't want you to sit there and twiddle your fingers and wait for a response, because you guys have a job to do. But if you've done your part, great. Maybe try to make that contact again and see what you could get from the SO, and then go from there. And I think that would satisfy everybody up here.
Councilmember Friend, are you going to?
One of the things was brought up about the 10 items. The reason I didn't mention them is because in my conversations when I was on the Intergovernmental Committee and with the police department, that those things are being talked about. And I know I was at a meeting with the sheriff and the police chief, and they talked about how they could move their detective groups together and how they could do the property room. So that's already being done. I just want to end the talk about consolidation. If there's improvements that got to be done on the recommendations from the previous report, I'm all in favor of those, and I know those are going on as we speak. What I'm saying is, my motion is to end the consolidation, just talking about it. That's it. It's
Okay.
done.
I'll second that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Matter of fact, can we have a roll call vote on this?
Could I make a comment?
Can I get Mr. Friend to restate his motion?
Hang on, before we do that, I'm sorry, I skipped over. Councilmember Scatini had one more comment, then we'll go back to your motion.
Yeah, I'll just chop liver here. I just make one comment. And this goes to you, Marty. You came up and you made a statement that this council don't pay attention to, we're setting our ducks up here. That's basically what you said. I want to let you know, I personally was involved in this report from day one. And I was personally been trying to get those things out. We had meetings on those things. So to come up here and say that we had done nothing is totally erroneous. It's wrong. So I just want you to know that.
Not one item has been implemented in a year and a half.
It may not be implemented, but it's,
Point of order, no comments.
but
Back to the
it
audience.
was discussed.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's
There's
all I
a
got to say.
motion on table.
For clarification, my motion is to discontinue the discussion about consolidation of the police and the sheriff.
And there's a second?
I thought we were doing roll call vote.
No,
We
make
need a
sure-
second.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Victor
Yeah,
second.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Councilmember Valdivia.
Yes.
Councilmember Friend.
Yes.
Councilmember Scatini.
No.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
And Mayor Velazquez.
No. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item H. Item H, I, J, and K, no business.
Move for adjournment?
Second. There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Did you put a time on that, Ray? 5 years, 8 years?
I did not.
Who you died?
I did not.